This episode brought to you by War. What is it good for? Movies. Hey everybody, we're watching Platoon and you are listening to Miscast Commentary.
You're listening to Miscast Commentary, where two guys have seen way too many movies and have way too much time on their hands.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Now here's your hosts, Joe Finley and Todd Murray.
Hey everybody, welcome to Miscast Commentary. I'm Joe Finley, and if that's not Todd Murray over there, then I'm very, or if that is Todd Murray over there, then I'm very sexually attracted to him right now.
It is I. It's Carrie. I'm back.
My beautiful wife is back. We have not fired Todd. We are still in the midst of kind of a pretty deep part of the lockdown, and there are curfews involved and things like that. So we could not record together. Thank you to people who were patient for us not being here. Last week, we figured with everything going on with the Capitol and that maybe a Vietnam movie might not be in our best interests. So thank you very much for your patience. We are here now. We got clips from Fred Kennedy, who is back. Well, not back with us, but with excerpts from our interview about this movie. We're going to hear from him. So got a lot of knowledge about the military too that I wasn't aware of. So actually he gave me a lot of interesting insight into military stuff because his dad was involved in the military and such. But for now, we got to get this bad boy going. Otherwise, Carrie's going to fall asleep. So let us press play. And it's playing. So yeah, Platoon. This is one that I didn't know until I asked you to do it that you had not seen.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
That's unfortunate. This is a classic one. This is actually my favorite of all the Vietnam movies. There's quite a lot of Vietnam movies, but this is by far my favorite one. Apocalypse Now, a little too much for me, if you will.
Yeah, as we get into it, I mean, it's fairly possible that I had seen it back a long time ago, but yeah, I don't recall ever seeing it.
Maybe. But yeah, so this is Oliver Stone, written and directed by Oliver Stone. Interesting because he started writing this right after he returned from Vietnam himself. Actually, the character Chris, played by Charlie Sheen, is pretty well based on him and his experiences in Vietnam. So yeah, he wrote the original script for this in 1971. Obviously, this movie came out in 86, so there was a big gap in time between when it got produced, when he wrote it and when it got produced.
Yep.
So, yeah, what else about this movie? So many people. We're going to come across them. I'm going to kind of let you be surprised as the people show up, because I don't know how many people you actually know are in this movie or what.
Well, I mean, we're watching the credits right now and I can read.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm hoping you're distracted. But it's not going to show. It's not going to show everybody on here. There's going to be some pretty big stars on here who do not make the credits.
Okay. I thought that was true of like Apocalypse Now.
That's very true. Back then that was just a thing. So we start off with Charlie Sheen. Very interesting. I was reading his IMDb. I mean, we've talked about him before and we know all the things he's been in. That's an interesting sight to see, to be your first thing is just a bunch of dead bodies that are going to get on the plane you just got off of.
Right then and there, that would just make me cry.
Yeah, you say nope, and you just get back on the plane, and then they put all the bodies next to you, and you're like, all right, I'll just stay here. I do like being called a cheese dick, so maybe I'll sign up. But I lost track of where I was there for that. It doesn't matter. But it's a big thing. So Vietnam, just in some of the reading and stuff I was doing, basically you were sent there. I
know him.
There you go. You were sent there for 365 days.
So one tour was 365.
One tour was 1 year there, and if you got sent for any reason, you got sent to stockades or anything like that. That wasn't time off of yours. Like, so say you got like 3 months in stockades, you would then resume your time. So it's not like you had 3 months of your year.
So you'd end up 15 months there.
Yeah. So it became like a big thing. Because there's a line that comes up a little bit later that they mention where they talk about that and how the guy's like, just send me to this place, send me to this place. But that wouldn't be better for him because it would mean he'd just be right back here as soon as he got out. And he'd be back here for the amount of time that he had anyways. So some more people you're seeing in the credits there. There was Kevin
David.
And Kevin Dillon. Matt Dillon's brother.
Johnny Depp. Wow.
Baby Johnny Depp.
I was going to say, this is like baby Johnny Depp, and he's really far down in the...
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's only got like a line or two in this movie. There's Tony Todd.
I don't know Tony Todd.
You'll know him when you see him. He's Candyman.
Oh, okay.
So...
See, right there, too. Nope.
So right off the bat, when trying to cast the movie, originally Charlie Sheen turned it down. And so he offered the role to Emilio Estevez. And Emilio Estevez took it, but then all the financing for the project fell apart, and he had to, so like the thing got canceled. And when it came back around that it was able to go, Emilio wasn't able to go because he was committed to other projects. So they brought it back to Charlie Sheen, who actually liked it so much at this point that he read for it again and then got the role. Apparently they wanted, or they were considering Johnny Depp for this role, but they considered him too young. He's 22 in this, and they thought that, and also he didn't have any kind of recognition to be like a leading man, whereas he's got a little bit. Not a lot at this point, though.
I was going to say, he couldn't have much at this point.
No. While they were actually on set for this movie, he got a handwritten contract to do Wall Street. For Oliver Stone, because they were sitting there and he just wrote it up on set, and he's like, I will do Wall Street. Okay.
Interesting.
Which is true of a lot of people. A lot of people in this also appear in other Oliver Stone films in the future. I know Kevin Costner had been offered the role that went to Tom Berenger, but they didn't, for Sergeant Barnes, but he had turned it down, and then they ended up working together on JFK all those years later.
Huh.
Oh, I just picture how hot that is, too. Like, it's just...
That's another reason to say nope.
Yeah.
It would be muggy and hot and hard to breathe and just sweating and ugh.
Yeah, this is none of your favorite things.
No.
So, there's snakes, there's... Oh, yeah, burnt bodies. That's something I'm into. So there's Tom Berenger. They gave him the best scar. He purposefully, Oliver Stone purposefully cast Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe against type, because Tom Berenger was always the hero, and Willem Dafoe was always the villain, and they're kind of like switched. It's a weird gray area as far as hero and villain is concerned in this movie, but he purposefully like put them against type, and both of them got nominated for Oscars.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of times when somebody goes against their type of what they usually portray in a movie, they nail it.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many examples of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't name any off the top of my head right now, of course, because, it's almost my bedtime.
You did it. It's fine. You get the idea. Go out and fucking IMDb it if you're so concerned. Yeah, so a lot of, they shot this in the Philippines, because this is apparently where you shot Vietnam movies back in the day. Apocalypse Now was shot primarily in the Philippines as well. One thing I actually talked about, because you can kind of hear like the word, I know, you kind of see the way people are in this movie towards each other, and it really made me think, because like you think about Band of Brothers, and you feel like World War II had like a much tighter kind of brotherhood of people, whereas this one didn't seem to, like most Vietnam movies don't seem to. So I actually talked to Fred about that, so let us hear what he has to say. It makes me think a lot too about the difference between how like Vietnam and World War II, and I mean, yes, obviously they're much different animals, but how they are portrayed in movies and stuff. And like a good thing as like the Brotherhood in these. Like if you watch like a Saving Private Ryan or Band of Brothers or something like that, there's this tough group of people, like this tight-knit group of people who have all been through something together, but Vietnam always seems much more broken up and all that. And I know, and they always do that thing too where they kind of break everybody into these archetypes, whereas I don't know, it just feels like it feels like America is a much smaller place in World War II, and then it feels like it's a whole world thing, because now you've got a saucier over here and you've got this person, and it's like they're all coming from different planets, like it's like the Mud 79 thing. Is that
like a saucier thing? Is that like Apocalypse Now? Are you doing an Apocalypse
I was
Now
doing
shout out with the chef on the boat?
Yeah, I do.
I'm getting some mangoes.
Yeah, but even when people do like spoofs of it or anything like that, you've always got that one guy, because it's like I'm from New Orleans, and when I go back I'm gonna be a saucier, and and then you've got your down home country boy, and you have this, and it speaks to like, is it because the world just seems so much bigger in Vietnam's American army that that Brotherhood doesn't seem as tight knit? Like you have people who are close, like, you know, Keith David and Chris are close, and the people they hang with are like that's a group, but then they have like their cliques, and I'm like, is that maybe more realistic of what it's always been like, or is it just
no? I think the difference, so if you take a look at the difference in terms of the military structures with Vietnam and the Second World War, generally speaking, and this goes to the First World War as well, the people that you volunteer with from your area are the people that you're in the unit with, and they're the people that you're going to fight with. There's not as much mixture of units, where when you got to the Vietnam War, it was, you could be drafted from North Dakota, and then you're flown to train in Georgia, and the people that you're training with might be also from like New Hampshire and Colorado. And so they take everybody from across the country. And it was a great sociological, psychological experiment to take everybody out of their home setting, put them in a room with a bunch of other people that aren't from the home setting, and then mix them all around. And you end up with some people that are from the same area, some people that have some familiarity in one way or another, and then they become really tight friends. And then when the war is over, they all go their separate ways and they all go home. So I think the lack of existence of those friendships that we see from the Second World War comes just the logistics of the way the armies were put together. But also, the Vietnam War is different in scope from the Second World War, because the Americans were never attacked. In the Second World War, they were attacked, and that's why they went to go fight. It's because somebody attacked them, so now they're all, you hit us, so now we're going. Whereas Vietnam was, you've got a whole bunch of people that are drafted, and then you've got a whole bunch of people that are volunteering, and you've got some believers, and you've got some people that are only there because they have no other choice. So you're not dealing with everybody going in for the same reason. So it creates this rift between rifts. So it's a very disconjointed start. So it's going to be disconjointed the entire way through. But the one thing that even in Platoon that they show well is that when they all got in the jungle, there was very much a sense of, if we don't work together, none of us gets out of here alive. And that is the one predominant feature that you consistently see in like Vietnam War movies, no matter what they are, is that I don't have to like you, but if we need to get through there together, I will watch your back because I know you're going to watch mine. That's the one thing that you see the most. And there's actually that Ken Burns Vietnam doc. They get into some really heady issues, like there was division within the units because there was the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King being killed, and it caused a lot of disciplinary issues and a lack of esprit de corps is the Marine Corps term that they use. But all these guys that were saying like there were rumbles like on the base, like massive brawls. But as soon as we were in the jungle and once we crossed the wire, we were all on the same team. Like it didn't matter. Like everything was gone. Once you cross the wire, put it in your pocket because we've all got to get here together.
So while that clip was going, we've seen a couple of extra people. We saw Forrest Whitaker show up. He played Big Harold in this, and apparently he was supposed to be a bigger, fatter guy, and he had put on a bunch of weight. But during their boot camp, he lost weight because they were working out so much, and they were marching and doing all this stuff, and they were eating like they were eating army rations and that, so he had bad food and so much exercise he was losing weight like crazy, and Oliver Stone got mad at him. But look at all the scars on Tom Berenger.
Yeah.
Apparently it started out, took about 3 hours, so there's Tony Todd with the beard there.
Oh,
so
okay, I recognize
yeah, there
him
you
now.
go. But yeah, it started out taking 3 hours a day to do, and I guess they got it down to a half hour towards the end. And if they didn't absolutely need to put it on him, they wouldn't, obviously. Like if it was just back of him, shots like that.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting little thing there with leadership, because that was obviously his superior, Tom Berenger's superior, but he's just kind of there for the resume, for the status, and he doesn't have any idea what he's doing compared to the other guys. Where do we? So yeah, I guess when they originally arrived, they got there the day before, or the EDSA Revolution of 1986. And what that meant was basically there was a complete government change while they were there, and there was a war happening while they were there. And they had to, basically, they weren't allowed to leave the country, but they weren't allowed to do anything. So eventually the production had to bribe the new government to let them start filming so they could film and then leave.
Wow.
So it probably had a lot of... probably felt a lot more real that way too, as you had this kind of guerrilla production going on. Boom. So yeah, so you've seen now very briefly the difference between Barnes with Tom Berenger as Barnes, and Willem Dafoe as Elias. There, he's a little bit more of a nurturing, caring guy, and this is your kill machine.
Yeah.
I miss this Charlie Sheen. Like,
yeah,
he was,
it was
so
a good Charlie Sheen.
But he was so good back then. Like, you think about, like, in comedies too, like Hot Shots and Major League, things like that. But then to do things like this and Wall Street, and he was just really good. It's like, I get bummed out seeing the version of him that we see now. Like, one of his last acting roles, he played Dr. Sheen in a Lil Pump music video. Like, it's just, again, like, people aren't really rushing to get him. He was in a 9/11 movie a couple of years ago that somebody did. I don't know anything about it.
The last thing I really remember him in was 2.5 Men, which kind of blew up in his face.
Yeah, that was when he went crazy, and then everything kind of went, yeah. That was when he ruined his and Ashton Kutcher's career. So it's interesting because, like, he's doing all this, like, by, like, letters to his grandma, journaling and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember in Hot Shots where he's doing the same thing, and they actually take the very first line that he takes that's in this movie of his, where they say hell is the impossibility of blah, blah, blah. That's what he says in Hot Shots.
Oh, really?
When he's in there. But at the same time, his father is coming by in a different boat doing a thing about Colonel Kurtz. So because they both had a very similar role in two different major Vietnam movies. Oh. So it's them crossing each other. They're reading the lines from their actual movies, and then they both get up at one point and look at each other and go, "I loved you in Wall Street." And they just give each other the thumbs up, and then gone. I love that moment. That's one of my favorite moments from that movie. It was much more a favorite once I realized that those, like, were the actual lines from these movies. I thought that was really funny.
That is pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
I've seen Hot Shots and stuff like that numerous times.
But it's been a while for you, eh?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely been a while.
Oh, I can just imagine what it would be like waking you up after 3 hours of sleep and saying you have to keep us all safe for 3 hours.
Yeah, you're all dead.
We'd all be so dead.
I don't know how many people have actually remember me being on here any of the other few times, but
yeah.
I usually talk about how it's pretty close to my bedtime and how much I like my sleep and...
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
We know. I actually spoke to Fred about something that, because he did his show, his audio drama, Mud 79, which is Star Wars based, but it's very similar to this in a lot of ways. And one of the big ways that they do it is a lot of the storytelling is done through this journaling. Like the entire Mud 79 is seen essentially through his journal, whereas a lot of what he's going through and stuff is through these letters. So I talked to him a little bit about kind of taking the big picture of a giant war and then kind of like shrinking it down to that. So let us hear what he had to say about that. You're still taking with Vietnam, you're taking a very big picture thing and you're breaking it down to just kind of this one guy's personal experience all through his journal and what he's seeing and that sort of a thing. How do you break that down? Because essentially what you're doing is concentrating the entire experience down to one person's experience. How do you go about, like, how do you suppose they go about doing that in a way where it is, just for lack of a better word, it just has to be so generalized through one person's eyes?
Well, the thing that they do in Platoon that I don't do in Mud 79 is in Mud 79, I wrote it like it's a war diary. It's a memoir. You never see any perspective other than his. Everything you see is filtered through him. And there's even times where he contradicts himself like a few chapters later, because that's the way we all are. We're very morally flexible with the world in which we live in to make us able to process it. Whereas in Platoon, they kind of bounced around, in particular the scene with the booby traps where you see them going through and they finding the documents and he lifts it up and the whole time, like, don't lift it up. What are you doing? Don't lift it up. You should know, like, it's too obvious. There's also some scenes where you're privy to the planning session with the lieutenant and the sergeants. You're privy to some discussions with the officers. You're privy to conversations going on in another hooch where they're all talking around and you've got, I forget what his name, Junior's talking with Kevin Dillon, and you just see the dichotomy of their world of drinking whiskey and listening to country music and playing cards, and then the other room is they're smoking reefers and they're listening to Jefferson Airplane and they're having a time. Whereas in my story, you're only going to see the hooch where they're all doing the drugs. So it can be difficult. I would find that very freeing to be able to give a broader perspective of things, and I think that you would have and I think that's a great storytelling technique, that there's a lot of times where you're directly seeing how naive Charlie Sheen's character is, because he's so completely unaware of what's happening just over here, you know? And I loved seeing that. And there's times where they shrink it down and then they only show Chris's perspective about what's going on, like his first night patrol and the mosquitoes eating him alive, and he doesn't even know what's happening down the line. All that matters is what's happening where he is right there. I love that way that they shrunk everything down while at the same time pulling the sights back just a little bit, but at the same time it's so closed and so focused, you only ever think of the North Vietnamese as the bad guy. And I think it gets very Star Wars in that perspective. I think there's a lot of similarities between a movie like Platoon and a movie like Star Wars, and I think that you could easily take that movie, set it on a planet like Endor or Felucia, and put them all in rebel uniforms, and I think you could have the exact same movie. You know what I mean?
So we're back just in time for the war here. I picture just how goddamn scary that would be, eh? Like, you just see these shadows coming at you.
I couldn't. I would. I've got a really good flight response. I take off.
I don't know. You almost got eaten by that dog that charged you.
There is that, yeah.
So you neither fought nor flot.
No, but I screamed.
Oh, you screamed. I ripped a doorknob off a door. You screamed so loud. Basically what happened, people who don't know, well, and that would be all of you, I guess, because none of you were there. Our neighbors had this big dog, and she was just getting home from work, and she got out of her car, and the dog got loose and started charging at her, and I just heard this.
There was 2 of them.
Oh, yes, that's right. And they were not small. And I went to...
They were German Shepherds.
Yeah, and I went to open the door to, like, I was upstairs, and I went to open the door up there, and I went to open it so fast, I ripped the doorknob right off the door, so I couldn't open the door. Then I ran down, and Carrie was just screaming at the dog owner.
I have a problem with people who don't put their dogs on a leash.
Yeah.
Nobody knows if your dog's safe or not. Nobody knows what your dog's going to do, including you.
Yeah.
Just put your dog on a leash.
Yeah. So if there's any other lesson from the Vietnam Wars, put your dog on a leash.
Yeah, exactly. Is that the name of this title?
No, I don't know.
Do I need to write it down this time?
We'll figure it out. Yeah. Yeah, I had you do that last time. I have my phone right in front of me. I could easily type that down this time if we do it. I think that's the part of this movie that made me so mad is the guy just instantly, like, he slept through his shift. Of course, they don't have friggin' clocks and stuff out there to be like, look, it's obviously not time. It's obviously not my shift.
Yeah.
Because I've had to use that. People did that. Actually, working at one place that I no longer work at was very much my Vietnam in that aspect, where people tried to blame me for shit like that because I was the new guy, and then I had to keep going and proving that it wasn't me, it was them. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I've never really had that, but yes, I have.
Yeah, of course you have. So yeah, he's injured. He didn't fall asleep. See, this is the thing about bad sleepers. He's not even trying to blame him, I don't think. I think he legitimately doesn't know that he was woken up. Like you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on when I'm woken up.
Yeah. But it's that thing of like, or it's like, I spoke to you, like I come into bed late and then you get up and I say something to you and we have like a little conversation. I'm like, hey, remember we talked about that? You're like, I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
Yep. No clue. I have been known to talk in my sleep sometimes.
No, but this wasn't you talking in your sleep. This was you flat out like turning around, looking at me, talking to me, having a back and forth.
I'm sorry, but that I don't remember it. It is sleep talking.
It's not sleep talking. You suck.
Oh, don't give up.
Somebody's always got to die. And it's always, if you want to know who's going to die in an army movie, it's always the one who shows the picture of his girlfriend.
It's all,
here's my girl back home. Wow, she's real pretty. Look at how babyface Kevin Dillon is here. God, he looks like a little baby.
He looks a lot like Sean Astin there, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's probably the most chubby-cheeked he was as a young man, Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
I love Tom Berenger in this goddamn movie. He is so good. But he is the guy, and we talk about this later with Fred, so I don't want to get too much into it. But he's very much the guy where I'm like, I obviously hate him, but under no circumstances do I not listen to him. It's like I look at him and I'm like, he's gonna make it through this. So if I do what he says, I'll probably make it through this too. Yep. And no matter how much I dislike what it is, because that's the whole thing. Is you gotta. Like these, none of these guys are trying to go career. Most of them were drafted and stuff like that. They just want to make their 365 days and go home. Oh, he has to tag him and bag him. Yeah, it doesn't seem. Fucking John C. McGinley. Another guy who's been in everything. He was also in Wall Street with Oliver Stone. He's in Scrubs. He's in all. I've got his stuff here. Why am I wasting time trying to remember when I can read it like a man? He was in Point Break, Wall Street, like I said, Highlander 2, Surviving the Game, which I would only put in here because I was note that I had for Todd because it's a movie we watched back in the day, like a straight-to-video thing where it was like they were hunting Ice-T for sport. And that always made me laugh. He was in Wagons East, which was John Candy's last movie. He was in The Rock. He was in Identity, which was written by a friend of the show, Michael Cooney.
Yep.
So that was awesome. And then, yeah, obviously, like Scrubs was... I don't want to say it was the biggest thing he did, but it was the longest thing he did. That sign always reminds me of MASH. I'm sure it existed everywhere, but...
Yeah.
Beer. It's always it's always so weird to me, like, to see them like have beer and stuff. Like I understand why they have it and stuff like that, but it just seems like it's always drinking on the job or something like that. Because it doesn't feel like there's downtime for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
So you just heard Good Morning Vietnam. That was the actual voice of Adrian Cronauer, who Robin Williams played in Good Morning Vietnam. They got a recording of him.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, because I thought that was from a different movie, but
that is not a different movie. Well, it's a different movie, but it was based on a real thing in Vietnam. This is fucking disgusting, by the way.
Yep.
You have to basically burn everybody's shit.
Yep.
Because you got no place to put it.
That's gross.
Uh-huh. There was actually, I think they did that in Jarheads as well, or Jarhead, where they already put like the chemical in there or whatever to burn it, and then the lieutenant or whoever came by and he needed to use it, so they had to push it back in. Ugh, so gross. Keith David has the best voice in the world. I love Keith David. He's been in quite a few of the movies we've done so far. He was in They Live. He was in Roadhouse. Can't get enough Keith David. 32 Days. Oh, Lordy. So this is actually an interesting thing, too, because we're going to get a very interesting... We're going to get a very interesting piece of information about him. So how did you get here? Okay. He volunteered. Everybody was forced to be here, and he's a rich kid who dropped out of college and volunteered for the Army. I talked to Fred about class in the military, y'all, based on this, and he had a lot to say, so let's have a listen. One thing that it deals with that actually you guys deal with a lot in Mud 79 is class in the military, really, because like he is a rich kid who goes to war, while all these other guys are the poor kids who go to war, very much like your guy, who is just, you know, I got nothing else. I have no other option. What is it that's so important when you're telling these stories about class in the military, like, and really exploring that as to what makes these people, besides just I have no other option? Like, what makes them be who they are?
What's cool about the story is that he is a believer. Like Charlie Sheen is Chris, I think his name is in the movie. Mm-hmm. Chris. Like, he is a believer. Like, he truly does believe that it's his duty to go do his part for this country that has given him so much. And I don't think that is a unique sentiment amongst rich kids. I think that is a unique sentiment in that story. And the more reading you do about the Vietnam War, there were a lot of issues with only the poor kids being drafted, and not just being drafted, but having no way of getting a deferment out of the draft. And so they had no other option. Whereas if you're rich and you're going to university, or let's just say you've got bone spurs, then you don't have to go fight in the Vietnam War, no matter how many times the draft board comes after you. And I think that what I love about that movie, that I do feel was almost a little bit, I'm a bit cynic when it comes to that stuff. I feel like he was accepted really quickly. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I had been working on a story like that, I don't think he would have been as accepted as readily and as quickly. Because when the big turn in the movie for his character is when he gets hurt on that patrol, and you're kind of left wondering if his fellow soldiers blame him for falling asleep, even though it wasn't his duty to be awake at that time. I just found when he comes back, all of a sudden he's cool and everyone likes him. And it did kind of take me out of it. But at the same time, I have this moment where, no, man, he's one of them now. He bled for them. So it's cool. I really loved how they touched on that, the poor kids staying in. And then you've got the lieutenant who's really only there to look good on his resume kind of thing, you know? It's just a great movie with the stories and the characters. And yes, the classes 100%.
One thing you'll see that they bring up a lot in this movie is the guys Chris is with, who again is basically the avatar for Oliver Stone in this. They're always smoking pot, and the other guys are always drinking. And his observation was that people who were the most stable there were the ones who smoked pot. The ones who drank were all the irrational ones, and
Okay, yeah.
Which I understand. At the same time, though, I'm like, I would be so weirded out. But I guess right now they're obviously not smoking pot while they're out in the field. They're like on base right now, and there's nothing kind of going on. But yeah. Bunch of hopheads, man. But see, they've all got beers.
Yeah. But I mean, historically in movies and stuff like that, pot's always been the kind of more mellow and chill, and alcohol's always been the kind of evil anger and hotheads and stuff. So
yeah, no, for sure. I guess prior to doing this, like I said, they did a boot camp. So they did a 2-week boot camp with their military advisor, Dale Dye, and they put them through the ringer. They deprived them of sleep. They marched nonstop. They ate, like I said, they ate only their rations. He wanted them completely exhausted and burnt out, and they started shooting the day after thing. They wanted them burnt out from the second they arrived to shoot instead. So, and then from there, Oliver Stone was shitty to them. He was drill sergeant the entire time, and he said basically everybody hated him on set but that was the point. That was by design. He wanted everybody on edge at all times, and again, he won Best Director for the movie, so I guess like what he did worked, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love this. This kind of reminds me almost like of The Office, where it's like Michael Scott comes in, except it's like an asylum, and he's just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, like he's trying his best to connect and do that flag, fuck you, that flag. That's a big part of the reason why we didn't do this episode last week. Because I knew it was gonna trigger me and set me off. Oh, he's got a sweet like stalker thing for Jesus.
Yeah, I was noticing that.
Yeah. He's got a great. He put on a great voice for this, John C. McGinley. I don't even know what it is. Full House. I wonder. It's interesting because it's like your view of which sergeant kind of you get behind between Elias and Barnes. They kind of made it that it's like, oh, all the assholes got behind Barnes and all the chill, mellow guys got behind Elias. And I get you got to kind of set those things. But I was like, I feel like you could easily just be on the other side. If like you were just assigned and you were like, you're with Barnes now and hey, you're with Elias. I feel like everybody would be like, yeah, this guy's good. This is a cool dude.
I can follow this guy.
It's, yeah.
Well, I mean, Barnes's character, there's a certain amount of respect that comes out of that just honest, straightforward, no filter kind of leadership that can come out of it. I've worked with some people like that in the past, and they can say anything they want to you.
Yeah.
And they can treat you however they want, and you'll still respect them because you know that it's coming from a place of wanting you to do better or whatever the case is, right?
It's mentorship, not not nurturing is what it is. I feel like this was going to end with a bunch of dudes making out. Every time I watch this, I feel the same thing. It's a bunch of shirtless dudes dancing really close to each other in a tight area. I'd be so afraid of burning. This is why I could never smoke pot. When you get down to the end like that, it's like, I don't want to burn my fingers. I've burnt my hand on a cigarette more than once, and I've never smoked.
That's because you did plays in high school.
Yeah, that was actually from that student film where I smoked like a pack and a half of cigarettes in a couple hours and I almost died. I was just trying to be a team player. That's what you get for helping people. Keith David, too, I wanted to mention, I was looking at his IMDb, and he played very recently, he played Chief Ironweed in the 420 movie, Mary and Jane. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Fantastic name.
It's so good. It's one we got to hunt down. Charlie Sheen said in an interview, though, I guess Keith David saved his life at one point. They were in a helicopter and he was leaning out and it kind of banked and he went forward and Keith David grabbed him and yanked him back like he almost fell out of the helicopter.
That's crazy.
So we could have avoided this whole tiger blood thing if Keith David would have just let him fall. I don't know how much in the movie they got shot though. See, again, this is something he's learning from this dude, right? Actually, it's something I wanted to hear about because we talk a little bit about leadership with Fred, and Because, I mean, there's guys who aren't by the book here. There's a lot of problems here, but let's hear what Fred had to say about the leadership in this movie. This respect of authority, because that's really something when you're working in small groups in like this with Mud 79, who they have a clone sergeant and who's battle tested and all this stuff, and then you've got your Elias and your Tom Berenger, whose name just completely
Blaine.
escaped.
I think it's Blaine or Blair.
There you go.
Like
but yeah, so you have those guys. Those guys have done shit, and they have earned like they have earned the respect of the guys to the point where that guy's an asshole, but I'm going to listen to him because I'll come out alive if that's the case.
Yeah, it's funny that you're bringing up something that when I rewatched Platoon, was a big glaring issue for me. In Mud 79, there is a definite fear and respect of the cloner LT. Dev Orto is his name, because he now has a name, because he won battle honors on a battle at Ordo Plutonia. That's where it came from. And he gets into that in the final episode, by the way. I talked to my dad about how they deal with PTSD with combat soldiers, where you're not falling off, but you're on the verge. Like, how do you address that from a leadership? Because he was a sergeant of young soldiers for a good deal of his career. Yeah. So I was asking him about the techniques that they use. And he goes, "Oh, there's a whole handbook about it. Like, it's something they're very aware of. Good leadership techniques." And so when he's got the LT, he's immediately credible to them because they all grew up watching Republic propaganda about clones. So there's never a doubt that this guy can handle himself. But he's never a malevolent character like Blaine, but he's also never a compassionate character like Elias. He's very much separated and distinct from them, and he's got his minions who are the sergeants. And the main character really just gravitates towards anybody who's got combat experience to listen to them. And the thing that was the big disconnect with Platoon and Mud 79 is that there's incompetent leadership within the platoon. He knows there's incompetent leadership, and it's immediately visible.
And that's what I saw in those guys in leadership. Because, like you said, they're not in any way by the book for sure, but they're these guys who these young kids look to, and especially on their particular cliques and sides, where they're like, I know if I follow him, I'm going to come out of it in one piece. And it's like, what that means for me as far as my career doesn't matter so much as what it means for me coming home. Oh, that guy reminds me. What the hell is his name? He was Shane in Walking Dead. And
John Barenthal.
John Barenthal. He had. I think it was just the nose, but that guy reminded me of John Barenthal.
I'd have to see him again.
Okay, I don't think we do. I think he's one of those really unimportant dudes.
Oh, hey, that was our dog's ears.
Yeah,
that's the helicopter that we wake up to in the morning.
I was just gonna say it sounds very much like Vietnam in our mornings because it sounds like a helicopter coming down. So it's interesting because again, this movie, like this, we've talked about, obviously, Vietnam is the bad guy for what it's worth. I know, the snake. But Vietnam is quote unquote the bad guy and all this. One thing that was really interesting is the movie We Were Soldiers, which is a Mel Gibson movie, which is its own thing, but that's fine. They had, what's it called? It showed a lot of things like from their perspective, and like you kind of like gave you like a two sides of war kind of thing. Not to say, hey, good people on both sides and all that sort of thing, but it was just interesting to see them not like stormtroopers, you know what I mean? It was just humans who were doing the same thing that we were doing, only just on the opposite side. There he is. There's my John Barenthal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So like it's not like a dead ringer or anything,
no.
just
but you can see there a resemblance. Like he could be related.
Kevin and I Kevin Feige, I guess, just recently didn't confirm, but just kind of teased again that there is definitely a possibility of bringing back Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, and all that into Disney Plus.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So here's the hub. That's the thing. Like you've already found your main dudes. you know that you're not getting like some new guy introduced halfway through this movie. So it's like you see somebody you haven't seen before. He's like, yeah, that guy's probably going to be dead. It's another thing. Like, I mean, I don't know a ton about the Vietnam War, but like you see how well prepared they were, like on their home turf. You know what I mean? And, like, there's a reason why this war was not won by the U.S. It was they were ready, and like and not to mention these guys having to try and land in the middle of the jungle when they're essentially surrounded at all times.
Yeah, I don't know much of anything about the Vietnam War, but this movie's kind of making me want to learn about it.
It is like and I mean, this is only kind of like I would call this a picture from the perspective of like kind of a very low level person. I think that there's a lot more to kind of learn about it, but the Viet Cong had a real system in place. And like they knew these guys were coming, and it's not like they just threw up a few barricades. It's not even like in Germany, or not Germany, but like on D-Day and stuff like that, you know, with the beaches, and they had those like big barricade things up, and they had some bunkers up and stuff like that. Like these guys had tunnel systems, and it's like
they were ready.
Yeah, it was like underneath Disney World. They have a whole like connecting set.
Yeah.
The guy who just talked, I had his name here because I keep forgetting it. It was Corey Glover. He was the frontman for the band Living Colour, and this was his first ever acting role. There he is. Oh, he's now out of focus. I feel like I'd be very nervous just knowing the fate of black people in movies, and you hear about a shot where it's like, oh, it's the 3 black guys from the thing are all going to be in this one shot. It's like, oh, one of us is going to die. There's Johnny Depp. Look at him. He's a baby. This was before he like completely wrecked his career. He literally, I looked at his IMDb to see what he's got coming up. The answer is nothing. Oop, they got one.
What? Oh.
Yeah. Predator got him. I always try to look, because that was a big thing in Vietnam too. People would always they would write stuff on their helmets and stuff like that. There was the famous one was Full Metal Jacket and War is Hell. There's Corey Glover. That face.
So I'm sorry, was that one of their guys
Yes.
that got taken by the Viet Cong and then like displayed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like either that or this is the beginning of Predator. Is that a giant dog in the background?
Yes.
I don't know what animal that was. That looked like a giant ass dog. See, like, and that's the thing. Like, everybody know he's an asshole, but like, again, that day we loved him. We knew that we were gonna fuck people up because of him.
Yeah.
That's impressive in of itself, even though it wasn't real. And you would, like, it's such a weird thing, war, because, like, that's a big thing, because you always hear, like, everybody says, like, real racist shit when it comes to war, and it's like, you know, like, they say the word gook a lot in this, and they do things like this to them, because it's like you had to, or at least, like, one personality type there had to do that to be able to justify, you know, them being the enemy. Otherwise,
yeah,
like, you couldn't bring yourself to kill them if you didn't bring yourself to hate them, right? And to have a motivation of having that dead guy there, they can go, oh, and then you can just instantly blame everybody, right?
Yeah, I don't want to know what kind of person I'd have to become to survive that. I really don't.
Yeah, right?
I feel so terrible for people that were forced into doing stuff like this when it's not in their wheelhouse. It's not in their personality. It's just, yeah.
Well, that's why, especially Vietnam, probably more than any other one. And we talk a little bit about that we talked about that in the Brotherhood of it, was that in World War II, they had been attacked. So everybody was kind of on board with, we got to go and do this for the USA, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that. Whereas like Vietnam, you just got sent there. Like most people who got sent to Vietnam didn't even know what was going on there.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I can't imagine.
Yeah. There's an interesting story. They're going to get a guy, I think it's actually this person that they're getting out right now. Yeah, it is. I think it is this one. Kevin Dillon and Charlie Sheen found out that this kid had cataracts and that he was just blind because they couldn't afford to get him a surgery or anything like that. So they felt so bad, they actually pulled money together and got him the surgery.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know. I felt really good, especially given what happens in these scenes, because you feel like... Because you know how, like, how, like, authentic they make everything feel in these movies? It almost makes it feel like they just picked people out of, like, the Philippines and Vietnam and just actually, like, tortured them and shit like that. Yeah. Like, it's just because, you know, like, these aren't, your everyday actors. These are people, like, these were locals that were hired and stuff like that. So it feels like they're doing this to real people. So to hear that some nice things were happening in the background makes me feel good.
Yeah.
This is a poor kid with just one leg. See, this is I feel like this would be the most of what I was. Like, I'm trying to be nice and you're really screwing with me right now. But that's the whole thing. Like, and then you have like guys like Kevin Dillon here who play Bunny, who are just, they're pot stirrers, for lack of a better word. Because like people are losing their goddamn minds here, and then he was probably scared to death too. He looked in that thing. He could have been shot when he looked in that thing. So he's like, had everybody come out, and he didn't have to look in that thing, he would have felt safer, and he wouldn't have lost his goddamn mind. It's hard to, because everybody's having such a goddamn different experience. It's just so like it's so hard to even like empathize. And Manny. See, even he's got like what the hell's going on here? Like people were on the verge of like breaking people, and that's why like you hear so much about how people were after Vietnam and stuff like that, is because this is just what it was like.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is once you break that part of your psyche and stuff open, it's
there's no going back.
And making it that way, there's no going back. It's
I feel like he just grew up to be Johnny Drama in Entourage. Like he feels like he's just equally as big an asshole. It's weird, like, his voice is so much older than his face there, eh?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to kind of, like, listen to him. Okay, so here's a 6-year-old Johnny Depp is about to do some translation. It's interesting. I was actually listening to or watching a bit of an old Last Week Tonight yesterday that talked about translators and stuff and how they were so crucial to, especially like in the Middle East, like they were hiring translators who lived in the Middle East, but then they were in danger as being like traitors to their country afterwards, and they couldn't get into the U.S. because of like, red tape, all the red tape and stuff like that. You can see he's got Sherilyn. Johnny Depp's got Sherilyn on his helmet. He was dating Sherilyn Fenn at the time.
Oh, okay.
And then I think you see when you go into that, like the place where the bunker that they were in, where they were smoking pot and stuff like that, I think you see SF carved in wood there because he did that as well. Or it's on his guitar or something like that. Yeah. That guy looked like he was just a different version of Kevin Dillon.
Yeah, he did.
There's only like 4 people there. Oh, that's a great idea.
This is making me very uncomfortable. I don't like it.
I know, I do, but this was the thing, and this is like, this was a wonderful thing, and it's something that Roger Ebert said, was that so many war movies prior to this had glorified war or turned it into art or something, and he's like, this movie doesn't make me want to be a part of war. He's like, war is awful, and war is, and that's what you're trying to, like, that was the message they're trying to get. It's trying to make you uncomfortable. Just like that. Like, it's, this was the kind of stuff that would happen and the kind of things he said he was witnessing at the time. But like, you see how everybody reacts. Like, all those people were on his side up till that minute, right? I want to know what happened to him that he got those scars. Yeah. I'd like to have a flashback and find out it has nothing to do with this. It was like, oh, it was a weird Christmas tree accident or something.
It was like, say farming accident.
Yeah. I was like, I needed it to be something really happy. Like, he was setting up his Christmas tree and he fell face first into it and scarred his face up. Yeah, the only part, Kevin Dillon's the only one who seems to be on his side now. So, and that's the one guy who should be stopping him, is he's friggin' superior. But like, how do you speak up? Like, how do you speak up to him? Because he's like completely unstable at this.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't worry, if it makes you feel any better, she doesn't get she doesn't get killed, and none of them are dead in real life. They all lived.
It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. So this gets shut down. Actually, what happened too is Oliver Stone, during this scene, this village scene, he had a PTSD attack, and the military guy there, what's the word I was looking for? What word am I looking for? Consultant.
The consultant.
The military consultant and him went off and had a cry together because they both went through this. They completely understood what this was. And he was like, so, you know, I give it up to them to relive their nightmares, to be able to share what it was really like with people, so that, you know, people aren't thinking, like, even with Apocalypse Now, like it was some kind of adventure.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you know, they never... You know, it's just, that one is just a bunch of, one guy just getting a bunch of like wacky characters along the way, really, if you break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Yeah, when you're out here too, like... You really, really need to...
He looks very familiar to me.
He does. You know who he reminds me of? The guy, and it's not the guy. He reminds me of the guy who I believe was in Major League 2, who actually was like the backup catcher to Tom Berenger's character, that's a funny thing too. I just realized that Tom Berenger and him were in this like really intense movie, and then we're also in Major League.
So it is him, or...
What? No, it's not him. It just reminded me that Tom Berenger and Charlie Sheen were both in Major League.
Okay.
But you know, he always reminds me of that guy. He's in a lot of things. He was in Mad Men, which is probably what you recognize him from.
Maybe. Okay.
But he was Duck something.
Okay.
Yeah. She's getting out her phone. I didn't satisfy her, which is not uncommon, but
you always satisfy me.
Yeah, that's on tape now, motherfuckers. I always wanted them to just have a scene where you find out that they were all like the main guys in the Viet Cong, just to like almost justify it. Like, that little girl is the leader. Like, what did they do? What was that in Tropic Thunder, whereas like that little kid kicks the shit out of Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I never watched that movie. So.
Oh, so good. So good. Actually, and what's really funny is what they do in that movie with Nick Nolte's character and stuff like that is essentially what it was precisely done in this movie.
Lieutenant Wolf, was that?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't even look the same. Like
but I know him from other stuff.
No, I know, but he's definitely aged.
He was also in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. What was it?
Desperate Housewives.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, they're being... this is actually apparently something that Oliver Stone also said. He said he stopped some guys from assaulting somebody. And
I'm glad I'm not watching right now.
I know. You figure out what he's in. This scene is over now, though. You're fine. But, like, that's a thing. And again, this is stuff you got to take home with you, right? I picture that he's the one who just got busted for that. He's like, no, I stopped it. Like, get them off of you.
He was also in Criminal Minds for a little bit back when we watched it.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, he was the director.
Oh, was he?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't remember anybody but that woman being the director. And I don't say that woman like that woman. I just don't know her name.
Yeah.
I've always, like, I love the idea of, like, being an actor and walking with all the guns and shit. Oh, you found it?
No, he was in something called Ice Twisters. I feel like I need to watch that.
Oh, we gotta hunt down Ice Twisters. I'll reach out to him and see if he'll talk to us. Why did all that shit just explode? The only reason that theoretically would have exploded is that there were munitions and they were right.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation I can figure. Uh-oh. You're all in trouble. Yeah. It's such a bad thing. Like, these breaks in, not just in rank, but in just flat out, I don't even know, just like these breaks in the team, you know, it's like that's the kind of shit that would tear you apart. But I guess something that was very prevalent in Vietnam is there were a lot of fights, a lot of infighting and stuff like that, but it wasn't something that really happened. Like, this is something that Oliver Stone portrays for the movie, but it wasn't something that happened a lot out in the field because you just couldn't do this shit or everybody could die. I want to know what that means. Chucks. I totally understand why every black person thinks every white person is crazy if they went to Vietnam. Because they're all fucking nuts. Tony Todd, again, just one of those amazing voices. Oh, that's the other thing that you would know him from was the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, right.
The color version.
Yep.
He was, which, bad choice of words, but it was, yeah. What is that hat that he's wearing? Like, is it two hat? It's like a beanie on top of, like, just like what, like a bandana thing, or? Yeah, that's gotta be it. But it looks like it's a Muslim thing.
I was gonna say
it's like a kofi or whatever it's called.
I was gonna say it looks like a religious.
Oh, that makes total sense because he complained when they brought pork earlier.
Yeah.
I just totally discovered something about this movie. Awesome.
Sorry, my ear is very itchy apparently.
That happens to me with these all the time. It's like,
I guess because my ear is sweating.
Yeah, that's the deal. Not if you do bad things. So frag is something that I actually heard about. Fred teaches us about fragging. I always just thought it was just flat out kill. Like, because that's something that, like, it's in video games. It's like, how many frags do you have and stuff like that, right? But actually, Fred, in a scene that comes up, we'll talk about it in a minute. And he kind of explains it to us, and it's kind of wonderful.
I've never really heard the term fragging because I don't really play video games.
Well, you don't play enough video games with murders. That's the problem. But all I'm saying is Sergeant Barnes is sus.
Our dog is whining at me.
Well, yeah, because she's not up on your boobs.
She's not in my face.
Yeah. Our dog learned how to be a dog by watching Cats. So all she does is just get in your face.
That's because she's smaller than a cat.
Well, it's because she's stupid, and she just learned from the first thing that would like be near her. Our dog is so dumb, but she's cute, and she gives little kisses, and she goes "Erf." He's aged very well. I guess when you look kind of like a weird monster to begin with, that you just age very well.
Yeah, because like definitely looks like a weird monster. He's always been very weird looking to me.
He is in so much shit coming up too. Of all the people, like almost everybody I looked up, like Forrest Whitaker's in a couple things. He's in Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic that's coming up.
I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see that too. He's also in a movie called Fall from Grace that's being directed by David Lynch's daughter Jennifer. Okay. Cool. But like Willem Dafoe, he's in The French Dispatch with Wes Anderson, like Wes Anderson's movie. He's in an Oscar Isaac movie called The Card Counter. He's in a movie called Nightmare Alley, directed by Guillermo del Toro, starring Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Toni Collette, Ron Perlman, and then he's in a movie coming up called Tropico with Pedro Pascal from The Mandalorian. So yeah, he has tons of shit come, and all like bigger stuff, like stuff that's going to get some more attention. Although who friggin' knows with like no movie theaters right now and stuff like that. I guess it's a matter of when this stuff comes out. I feel like they would have won this war very easily if they would have sent like a squad of lawnmowers out first. It's all the deep grass that really got them in trouble. There's some it's beautiful settings though. Like you saw that like old like it looked like it was an old like just like ruined church or something like that in the background, and I would love to go and discover places like that. And there's a few around here too that we've seen people like post things on Facebook. I'd love to go down. It's down by like the water, and you can find
actually. I had a client who came in to see me that he's a photographer, and he put together a calendar to sell at some of the local historical sites and stuff like that of different cemeteries in the area. Yeah. And it was actually really quite pretty.
Oh, yeah. And I love that stuff. Well, that's a big thing, and that's kind of something where you and I have always differed, was like when we talk about going to like certain places, like going to Italy, you're locked in on the food, and I'm like, I want to see the Colosseum and the...
But that... Every vacation for me is locked in on food. Hell, when we have a staycation, it's what do I get to cook and eat?
Yes, that's fair. We have so much steak now, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a couple of recipes I have to make this week, though, for my cooking group.
Oh, yes. She's got a cooking challenge that she's doing.
And I'll be using some beef for one of them.
Yeah, that's the stew?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the other one you got to do?
It's a... Oh, what was it called? Country?
I don't know why you started saying and I just thought you were going to say something horrible. And I was like...
When have you ever heard me say something
horrible?
No,
but on top of that, why would that have anything to do with food? Oh, I know why. Wink.
No. Country chicken piccata. So kind of like my veal piccata that I had on the weekend.
Yeah, for her birthday, she had a restaurant she's been wanting to try, and she ate 1/8 of her veal piccata because somebody sent her a charcuterie board right before dinner.
But I took it and I ate it for lunch.
No, that's great. Did you end up eating those truffle fries?
I did.
Nice. Were they good?
They were pretty good.
Yeah, I bet you they would have been better in the air fryer afterwards, right?
Probably. Because I did
you.
them in the toaster oven at work and I burnt the top portion of it.
Yeah, that's what happens when you do anything in a toaster oven. You burn the top and the rest of it's cold.
No, the rest of it wasn't cold, but I did burn the top.
Way to go.
Anyways, what's happening?
There's a war in Vietnam. They just kind of stumbled into an ambush, and they're dealing with it now.
Okay.
I don't even like the idea of, and this is something that anybody who's done a movie like this will tell you, it's like, I like the idea of the walking around with the guns and like, it's like, yeah, I'm a soldier, blah, blah, blah. But the second this happens, it feels like, obviously not from an emotional standpoint, like it doesn't feel like actually being there, but just from the being in the dirt and all that standpoint, you're like, I could have like, I'm not in the war. CG this dirt. Let me crawl around on a blue screen and you just put dirt on me.
Oh, see, I don't mind getting dirty. That's part of what I like about the mud run so much, is
know.
just the getting dirty. And
yeah, I was so glad that Abby did that too. I remember Carrie did her first mud run, and Abby saw her, and then Carrie said, "Oh, you should do it next year." And she's like, "No." And then Carrie put a little bit of mud on her nose, on Abby's nose, and she had a meltdown.
Yeah, full of crying, tears, meltdown.
But the next year she did it, and she did great.
She did fantastic, and she actually wanted to do it again after that. So we did sign up, but then COVID happened. Yeah,
so we still have passes for all these things to do the next ones. But
as long as they happen this year.
Yeah, well, it's just whatever. But if it gets pushed forward another year, it's still paid for. I don't give a shit.
Well, as long as they give me the option to do it.
Yeah, I imagine that if they did it the first time, why wouldn't they do it the second? Then?
Could put them out of business.
Yeah. Well, giving the money back would put them out of business faster. I'd give that little pile a pat. Thank you, pile.
Thank you, Dirt, for saving me.
Oh. I do want to throw a grenade. I've never been one to want to go to a. He got a holy fuck, but you don't hear him saying it. But yeah, that would be a bit of an experience.
Yeah.
But I would like to just throw a grenade, not at a person, though. I just want to see one go off.
Just want to see it go off.
I just also, though, I'm very worried because I have pretty messed up shoulders, and I have a fear of throwing it just straight down by accident. Or like my shoulder tweaking at the back, and then before I get the forward motion, so it's not even a tuck rule situation, it just drops, and then I got 6 seconds to get away. It was just a leg going up. I want somebody, a celebrity, to buy the rights to one of these movies and then start inserting themselves in the movie. So not to be a major character, but just a scene like this. It's just an insert shot of him going "Oh my God, what's happening?" So he's got some shrapnel in his back right now. This is a horrible thing. He's literally got to take the knife to dig shrapnel out of him. See, because that was the thing. I didn't really understand. As a kid, you don't understand really what a grenade is, right? You just think, oh, it just makes an explosion. Well, what it is, it's full of all this little stuff. And when the explosion happens, all those little bits of shrapnel, if you weren't in the area where the pressure exploded you, the shrapnel explodes you, or the shrapnel shreds you to pieces.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people. See, I wouldn't mind doing this part too. I'd love to firemen's carry some people like a goddamn hero. But as long as I didn't get muddy. Oh, it's Johnny Depp. So Johnny Depp's first few movies were him getting murdered by something. Freddy Krueger. You see Forrest Gump run by in the background. I was something that was interesting actually, because they were talking about when this happens and stuff like that. This happened this movie ends right before the Tet Offensive, which was considered the turning point of the war and stuff like that. But that's exactly when what was it? I've already said Full Metal Jacket. That's when that movie starts. When they come to Vietnam is right around the same time as these guys leaving. So I almost want to do an edit where it shows them crossing over, and it's the new guys coming in and those guys coming out. Ugh. This has got to be a real thing though, that had to happen from time to time, because it's a lot of people became officers based on their education and intelligence, not because they were friggin' badasses on the field or good under pressure or anything like that, right? It's when they were in boot, they were they showed real promise when they weren't getting shot at.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's one of those things too, we've never, with I guess the exception of the War of 1812, like us and like the U.S. never really fight wars on their own. I guess then you get Revolutionary War back in the day, but since like the U.S. has been the U.S., they've always fought like in away games. Mm-hmm. And to do one in Europe might be a little bit different because you're not out in the friggin' jungle. You're out amongst buildings, and it's like, okay, you can see a landscape and kind of like get a strategy behind it. But like when it's just all trees and grass and stuff, it's just like, well, I hope I don't get murdered here, and then we'll try to murder them from here.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, I think it kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier, though, where the home field advantage that they had being in the jungle like that, because these people don't live in, the closest thing they come to a jungle is like they might live in the backwoods or something like that. But
Everglades.
But they're still civilized. They're still like city and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they can drive into town to get milk.
Yeah, whereas...
Well, I guess that, I mean, I don't know how far out these jungles are from like Ho Chi Minh City and things like that, but yeah. That's another thing too, is like when you you literally, you can't even see where your other people are, much less like those guys. So you see those guys coming in and you're like, I hope I'm not accidentally shooting at somebody I'm not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I'm hit, man. Here's a picture of my girlfriend because I know that's what I'm supposed to do. What a weird attitude. It's a long, you've got two. It's interesting too, like the medics, you know, to be a medic in all of this is just like friggin' bananas, because you are a combat guy still, but you also have to like kind of drop all that if anybody else gets hurt.
Yeah.
And that's where your focus is. Like, I mean, you have a sidearm or whatever, but your main focus is just saving other people and hoping you don't get shot in the neck while you're doing it. All right, so we've got a bit coming up here. Actually, Fred's got some thoughts on this, but
I was just going to say, actually, we're a good portion into us, and I can honestly and definitively say I have never seen this movie.
Yeah, you've definitely for sure not seen this movie.
Yeah.
You'll recognize there's a couple of shots in the movie later that you... I can't imagine that you won't at least recognize, though, just because, like, you know, when, like, the Oscars or Golden Globes, they do those, like, big compilations of, like, the history of film and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a shot from this that is, like, one of the, like, it's the perennial. It's in every one of those compilations. This movie was, we had one of those MGM, we had that MGM box set of DVDs back in the day, and this was one of the movies on there, and I think it was also one of the ones, like, you know, when it has like the collage of everything, that iconic shot of Willem Dafoe after, you'll see you would see in that as well. Who the hell is, I just see people like crossing over. I'm like, who the hell's that dude? Oh, such good editing here too. This is another movie. Her name was Claire. I can't remember her last name now. But the editor of this movie, this was a big thing, especially in the 80s and like late 70s into the 80s. A lot of great movies were all edited by women. Because it was like, Jaws was edited by a woman. This was, I think E.T. was. A lot of Spielberg stuff back then was. And what other ones? There were a bunch, but yeah, women may make great editors, especially of these things. I don't know if there's something very specific about it, but it was a I don't know if they came at it from a different perspective than the men who directed the movies.
Well, I mean, it could be because, I mean, kind of historically and. Sorry, do you have to put something?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, historically and, like, evolutionarily, Men are always like, yeah, we go to war and we be and make it that glory that you were talking about, that a lot of other movies were.
Yeah.
Whereas women see the.
Yeah.
Did he just kill Elias?
Yeah, he did. And actually, I will interrupt you now. I hate interrupting a woman when talking about women, but here we go, because I want to talk about Fred talking about that exact scene.
And I often wondered about, like, if we want to talk about, like, motivations of characters, can we give a spoiler for a movie that's 34 years old?
I think that'll be just fine.
Like, I wonder often if Tom Berenger taking down Willem Dafoe in the jungle was he was worried about his career, or he was worried he wouldn't be able to kill more people. I've wondered about his motivation about that.
I've thought about that too, and I think it's the latter, to be frank.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think that he thinks that it would be to the detriment of the army, or for him to not be there.
Yeah,
like
totally agree.
Yeah, you will be hurt if I'm not here. I am actually saving you by keeping myself here, because that's what I do, is kill the bad guys. So yeah, that was just what he had to say about that. Yeah, to your thoughts about like the women in perspective and stuff like that, I definitely agree. I also though think that like Oliver Stone was definitely not in any way like he didn't come into this trying to glorify. I don't think she changed the tone of this film, but I think that.
No, what I was trying to get at is that they can women, because we are the emotional ones.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, I'm not speaking for every woman, obviously, but we tend to be the nurturing and the historic ones. They can kind of put that feeling into the movie. You said Jaws was done by a woman, which you get that feeling of the mother who wanted to protect her son, and her husband who's, you know, kind of going out onto the waters and into these dangerous waters to chase this shark and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, this one, you're getting kind of like that, like you can't see me now because you're not recording this visually, but like some of the scenes earlier physically made me cry. Yeah. And I think it kind of brings that different emotion, that nurturing emotion to it. Yeah. You know, I could definitely see that for sure. And I think that there's also, I don't know what it is, but I mean, there's definitely something to it, because there was a lot of it going on, and it's weird that kind of went away. I'm not saying that there's no female editors anymore, but I'm saying that like when you had a time like this time when there were so many prominent ones to go and have so fewer is just kind of weird to me. Well, it's like, you know, if it ain't broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Oh, well, that's the worst thing. He just, for one split second, he looked like Ernest to me. Yeah, kind of. It's just like, there was a, like, because he's just got like a very character face. So here comes that shot that I was talking about, where it's about where. So yeah, he was shot. Give it up for him for running after being shot in the stomach. Yeah. Oh man, to have a death scene like this as an actor must be a fucking dream. So here's the shot right here. Oh wait, not quite. I'm getting ahead of myself. Guns. All right. So here, he keeps teasing it. He's like, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Oh, come on. Do the move. Do the roar. Dude's got a will to live, man. Yeah, I know, eh? That's another great Tropic Thunder thing with the guy, because they basically ripped this scene off, but then Robert Downey Jr., he goes like, survive, when he does it. It's this shot. That's on the cover of the movie. It's every compilation of everything was that shot. I guess it was a reenactment of a painting that somebody did. Okay. Or something like that. It was one of those ones I glossed over because I was doing my research at 4:00 in the morning. That's my fault, not yours. Well, it's a little your fault. It's not my fault. Well, if you would have like won a lottery or, you know. Dude, you're the one who plays the lottery. Well, if you were playing the lottery, we'd double our chances. Actually, I can't say that because I literally have to go to work tomorrow and bring Sherry money for the lottery.
Okay, so they're talking about fragging now. So Fred's going to explain a little bit more about fragging and just this scene in general, because this is actually one of like the great scenes in this movie. So let's have a listen.
You've got Tom Berenger overhears Chris talking about fragging them. And fragging is something that is a big deal is made about fragging. And for anybody who's not aware of the practice, it's the idea that you pull a grenade, you roll it under the hooch of an officer or authority figure or anyone that's really causing you problems and blow them up. And it did happen, but it wasn't as prevalent as you're made to think it was in Platoon. And I think the scene where he comes in and just his animalistic presence, like you see that hooch where they're all partying and smoking weed and having a good time with Elias. And then you see that same scene where Tom Berenger comes in and it's just like a wolf walking through a chicken coop, putting all the chickens in their place. Like you're all just a bunch of roosters to me.
Yeah.
And like no care or concern. And it's also cool that it's Tom Berenger, who predominantly had only ever played heroic characters up until that point. And I think that his portrayal is so perfect in that movie that I only see him as a villain because of that movie now.
Yeah.
That scene I think is so phenomenally well acted, where I don't believe he is necessarily evil. I think if anything, he thinks he's the hero of the story because he's the only one fully committed to killing the enemy. And these guys in that room are so caught up in their moral power play, they don't realize that he's going to get them all out of there and alive because they're all cogs in his machine. And if one cog breaks, the machine doesn't work, and he will not let that I love that scene where he's like, I'm glad you asked. Now I'm really remembering how much I love it. Like, I will not let that happen. And he will will them to victory. He will make them victorious. They just need to get on board with his plan. Elias wanted to be Jesus, wanted to do the right thing. That's going to get you all killed. I'm going to get you alive. Don't you see?
Yeah.
And it's such a brilliant story with a lot of like over the top archetypes.
So yeah, and that's exactly what he was talking about. And the thing about it is him being like the antagonist of the movie, but he's right. That's the only thing is he's like, yeah, did he do something very bad? Yes, but the whole point is that his goal is to win the war and get people home. And misguided as it is to be the one to decide what he believes is getting in the way of that, which is why he kills Elias. But yeah, that's where his failure is where he just kind of makes that call for himself.
I can see your point. I don't want to agree with you, but I see what you're saying, and I could totally see how people would follow that and not say anything. Yeah. And honestly, I'm not even sure that I would say anything.
Yeah. Well, especially in this war, because again, this was just a lot of people looking to get home.
Yeah.
Right. And
counting down the days till they can get home. They showed that earlier.
Exactly.
42 days in.
It's all I want to do is get home. I'm going to do my tour. I'm going to do my part, and then I'm leaving. And especially the draftees, right? So like they wanted out before they got in. And so if this guy is my best chance of doing that, then you better believe it, right? Oh.
Are you sure that's not how he got the scar?
Yes. Yeah, this exact thing, like every 365 days this happens to him. Like nobody's seen it from the previous one. Uh-oh. 10 years in jail. Apparently too, like those stockades. Well, I mean, I don't know why it would be a surprise, but it was no pleasant thing to be in the U.S. stockade. And like I said, what was it called? It was Saigon then, or just outside of Saigon. Now, like I said, it's Ho Chi Minh City. But that's our geography lesson for the day. Every Oscar, I gotta look it up again because I don't remember all the awards that this thing won. Oh, I'm not using the right mouse. But yeah, this thing won so many goddamn awards that.
Oh, I think that was like a cow or something we saw earlier. It wasn't a dog because it was really big, and I just saw another one.
Oh yeah,
I think it's like a cow or.
All right, I think it's just the angle or maybe the lens they're using or something because it looked really skinny, but I just saw that again, and yeah, that definitely wasn't a dog. I was like,
there's the church again.
Oh, there you go. Because I was like, do they have some kind of mythical creature that we don't know about in Vietnam?
Chupacabra.
Yes, there we go. Now we're talking. I can't. There we go. I'm just looking up this thing. Sorry to go off mic here. Charlie Company. Again, it's these landings. That was something they did really well in We Were Soldiers too. Greg Kinnear played this helicopter pilot who basically hit where they were, which was, I think, LZ X-ray or whatever it was. It was like the most dangerous place at the beginning of the war because literally you would basically, the first people getting off the helicopters were just being shot. It was just bam, 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 bam. Helicopter goes, brings people back, bam, 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 bam. And that was just happening nonstop. And they, and that's what happens here. Like, at least like in World War II, you kind of came from an angle. You knew they were going to be waiting for you. You could have a plan, but it's like here, it's just your fates and you're fighting ghosts the whole time. All right, so here we go. So it won for the Oscars. Won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Sound, Best Film Editing. Claire Simpson is the one who did that. I'm actually going to look her up and see what else she's done because it looks like she's done a lot. Best Actor for Tom Berenger, nominated was Best Actor for Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe, which usually you'll get multiple Best Supporting Actors, but you never get two Best Actors. They were both in a support. Sorry, I'm used to them. It's saying Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah,
this is Best Actor, Best Writing, Best Cinematography. Golden Globes, it won for Best Motion Picture, Best Director, Best Performance by an Actor in Supporting Role. Tom Berenger won that, and then it was nominated for Best Screenplay. Won Best Director and Best Editing at the BAFTAs. It just kept going and going and going. It's like, so there's Claire Simpson. Oh, she edited The Constant Gardener. What else? Oh, she hasn't. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Constant Gardener. Bunch of stuff. Oh, she's done quite a few things. Jacob the Liar. Chud. She edited Chud. Okay. So that's a big jump to go from Chud to, and then, she just became Oliver Stone's editor then because she did Salvador, Platoon, Wall Street. Yeah, she's got some good ones in there. I was so glad you didn't. I don't even think you got this far, but Keith David is in the final season of Community.
Yeah, so I did not watch the final season of Community.
Yeah, he's fantastic in that. It's hard because when you're trying to be like a replacement character, when people are like leaving the show so quickly and stuff like that too, it's hard to be good. But yeah, no, he was fantastic. I really like his hair in this. I know shouldn't be a focusing point.
He looks a lot like his brother in this.
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of mannerisms as his face is moving and stuff as he's acting and stuff. He like really looks like Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, they're definitely they're definitely a couple of Estevezes. I also, what was it? There was a great roast joke about him. I can't remember. I'm just paraphrasing it, but the basic idea is he was born Carlos Estevez. That's his legal name.
Charlie Sheen? Yeah, no, I know.
And then he was born Carlos Estevez, and he's like, but you took the name Sheen. He's like, well, you don't exactly act like a Sheen. He's like, but with all the cocaine you've done in your life, you sure as hell act like a Carlos.
So he's getting to go home?
Yeah, he's leaving.
Something that's he's about to die.
Right here. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, did I show you a picture of my girlfriend? Something that was really interesting too was they shot this mostly in sequence, meaning that when it was time for people to go home, they were actually going home. And like, so they said that speaks a lot to people's emotions and stuff when they're leaving, because they're actually like leaving. They're done the movie.
Oh, that would suck so bad.
I know, eh? There's a bit too where apparently he did this himself. They said he did it to himself because, like, there's ways to take care of your feet so that doesn't happen, right? It's called trench foot that he has, and people would give it to themselves so they could go get sent back and do and be at the hospital, right? Long Bin is that jail that we were talking about before. Oh, this is fucking creep.
I don't want to watch it.
Oh, imagine how I felt when the Matrix was on and that thing went into what's his face's belly button.
Belly buttons are fine.
Belly buttons are not fine.
Belly buttons are fine, honey.
Yeah. See, look at.
No,
look, he's walking. Oh, he slips there too. Just a little bit of a. But I like this too, like, and that's something they do, and that's what I like about them, like with having the jerks in this, is you get the jerks and then you watch them break down too, and it's like everybody's going through it. It's just that how people are dealing with it as they go through it is the big different thing. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's another thing too. This is actually an interesting thing because, see, the emotions that he's putting out here. While he was here, his mother was recovering from brain surgery, and he was getting like little to no news.
Oh my goodness,
about that. So it's like he got to like put that out in this scene because it's the only time when he's not a dick. He's having a little bit of a breakdown himself, and that's all he's thinking about is like his character getting to have a little bit of leave, be able to call home and stuff like that. And so he puts his own brain there. He's like, oh, imagine if I was able to call home and see how everybody's doing.
Yeah. He
almost smacked his head. You know what the one thing I'll never do near a helicopter that he just did? He jumped.
Or run your hand up like that.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, absolutely. There's no chance. There's no chance that I'm not in a ball. Like you and I went on a helicopter trip the one time, and they didn't start it up till we were inside it because it wasn't a friggin' it wasn't Vietnam. But it just, yeah, that always like freaks me out. It's like when you see people who get off the helicopters and they do that head duck, I'm like, you could never do that low enough. Like for me, I would like slide out like I was jelly.
Slither like a snake and just like crawl across the ground.
I'd roll out and make sure that I landed feet down so my toes weren't up. Everybody's got a bad feeling about this one. You know what else people had a bad feeling about? Star Wars. I do want to take the time just now, too, to thank Fred Kennedy. Follow him on Twitter at fearless_Fred, or you can follow Star Wars Mud79 to get all the information on the audio drama. That's a part of the Issue Zero podcast. You can look all of that up.
I miss Fearless Fred.
Well, he's on 107.1. You can just...
No, I like 102.1.
There you go. I've actually started to move over because basically it's a channel that actually we discussed it prior to the interview just because he didn't know that we worked together. So I let him know that. And then, but I hear 107.1 and it's now starting to happen where my music is starting to become classic rock. And it's like the things that, the things that were on the edge in the 90s are now sliding over into there. Like there's a mix of like a lot older stuff still. And then the odd thing that like shows up, like they'll play like, what is it? Like a Pearl Jam song or something like that. Right. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, that's when I feel my age.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, getting old. Look at how fixed that phone, like that phone has been taped together and like covered in plastic so many times, probably just to get, well, I think actually they're just waterproofing it there, to be honest.
I was going to say waterproofing it because have you seen how much rain falls?
Yeah. That's all it does. Rat-a-tat. That guy has a beautiful mustache. He looked like somebody who's like current. No, they're fine.
What were you saying?
I was gonna say that the guy who was with the captain there looked like he looked like somebody who was in like more current stuff, but like as a young man, so it obviously wouldn't be him because that guy who I'm thinking of is younger now than that guy was there. But I don't know. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What the hell? Did they just put the club on that tree so nobody steals it?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I don't remember. I haven't seen this in a while. It's a detriment to when you do these because I like to be able to react to them a little bit more naturally, but at the same time, when you haven't seen them and you forget what things are. This is, I believe that was the one RPG that was actually, like they actually launched a real one instead of like rigging, like effects and stuff like that. They just wanted to have one moment of like authentic, this is what it felt like type thing. That was another thing I learned a lot about with in World War II was was about identifying yourself and stuff so you didn't get shot. I think I learned a lot about that in Band of Brothers. I know that this is not the best way to educate yourself. There's a lot better ways to educate yourself on how these things really went down, but I mean, one thing at a time. I have a lot of documentaries to get through. And seasons of Superstore.
Yes, I want to get through more Superstore.
We will. That's me getting COVID.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's time. I'm getting a 2-week vacation in our bedroom. Oh, that's a good way to. It's like that's exactly somebody who we should be shooting would say. Uh-oh. Hey, man. Game over, man. That's so... Yeah. And I can't even imagine. There's so many times when like you've like soldiers get like completely cut off from everybody else and from communication and all that. And it's just like, well, we have to somehow survive the night. I guess just shoot everything for now and hope that we have enough bullets.
Yeah. Again, we're very fortunate and lucky to have not had to have gone through any of these traumas. I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, and then what's interesting too is like the wars of today, the most recent Iraq war, especially. A lot of people joined the military because there was a means to college, it was a means to whatever, but there was no war going on. There wasn't even a threat of war. And then 9/11 happened, and then all of a sudden, all these people who thought they were going to go through basic training and maybe get like, a cushy like peacekeeping deal in like Italy or something like that, and then all of a sudden have to like go to a real war.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he could be saying anything. I always like the idea of the lighting when it comes to this because it's like it's so thick you're not getting any moonlight, So it's like how sometimes you're like, oh, how are you seeing this? And now obviously with the battle going on, you're getting certain lights and you're getting the explosions and all that. But it's like, just from a cinematography standpoint, I'm interested in this challenge. Or maybe that was the real one. I don't friggin' know. One of them was real. You guys figure it out for yourselves. If you're Oliver Stone, you know. Oh, man. Like, I don't even have the mental fortitude to do this in a video game. This is why I don't play Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't. I barely play Animal Crossing.
And she got PTSD from Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I can't.
Mm-hmm. Actually, she went Wall Street. She went greed is good with the turnips.
I did. But I got out of it.
Yeah.
I got myself out. Although I've been laid off again as of today, so who knows?
Yeah. No, I told you you're gonna get deep into Among Us. And you're gonna start calling everybody sus.
No. I'm gonna be doing some more running and cooking.
Yeah. Oh. That looked so grossly real. Like, even though we're watching people get shot and beat to death and stuff like that, I watching that guy like run face first into that tree was somehow more violent to me than anything else.
Oh, he was just stabbing him?
Yeah, he was getting the bayonet. I didn't like the choice of crossing your eyes when you died, but that was another big part of their training and stuff like that. The guy in Vietnam, he taught everybody what it felt like to be shot. He taught everybody what it felt like, what it looked like when people died. It kind of like that's the main thing. Like I said, it'd be cool with like having all the gear on and walking around, but it's like I have no interest in acting a war. He's kind of got the right idea. Grab a dead body and hide.
Yeah.
So that is Oliver Stone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Uh-oh. So that was his little bit. Oh my God, that was the sexiest man in the war. So there's a suicide bomber, and Oliver Stone killed himself off very quickly. It's actually a really interesting thing because the three Vietnam vets, the two Vietnam vets who are in this, make cameos as people who die or are dead. Because one of the dead bodies getting carried off the plane at the beginning of the movie was the military consultant.
Oh, really?
And then a dead body getting, I think it was one of the dead women from the village or something, was that guy's wife. Must be how that feels too, is just the idea of, like we could be the last people. For all we know, like, this has gone so sideways that everybody back at base camp could be dead, and it could just be us versus them, and just we're riding out our time. At the very least, it couldn't be that hard from an acting standpoint to act like you're scared shitless when there's explosions going all around you and people screaming in every direction.
Yeah.
But this is why this won Best Sound, though. Think about how much editing this thing would require. That's why I gave a lot of love to Fred. If you follow on his, especially his Star Wars Med 79, you see a lot of his audio tracks and stuff for the episodes, and you just see they're like 25 tracks deep of sound effects and all this stuff. And sound design is such a interesting thing in making movies. I think that's why these movies never disturb me, is I don't even think about what's happening in them. I think about how it's being made.
Yeah, it could be.
That could be all the time I spend,
watching these as a child.
No, that too. I was going to say lighten people up in Nam. I went to Nam like 6 years ago. What is he beating him? Pow, pow. His hair is like super crazy now. That's the best version. Barnes is beating everybody to death. He probably got like 30 kills in. Oh, I've
seen that scene. I've seen that before.
That crazy. That was like a horror movie look he had in his eyes right there. Holy shit. Tom Berenger, if you listen to our podcast, you did a great job in this movie. He must listen to this podcast, right?
I'm sure he does, sweetheart.
It's just, yeah. It's him and George Lucas, listen. Just wiped out. He looks like he got a good rest, though. He looks more rested than I've ever been, and we own, like, a nice mattress. That
weird deer?
That weird deer is making fun of it. Was that the weird thing we saw walking in the background?
Maybe.
Their animals are also different over there. Ugh. That's another thing, too, is, like, even though it's fake, it's just that caked on blood. I remember that feeling from, like, Halloween costumes when I was, like, a zombie or something like that, and you'd have this caked on blood, and I was like, oh, if this was real. Like, it's just, I'm so grossed out by it being, like, and it's fake. I was like, if it was real stuff. And I think I've told the story on here before when I took a girl out on a date and I had blood all down the side of my head because I shaved my head.
I know, I've heard it.
I know
numerous times.
I know you've heard it a lot of times. But I was like, that was one time I just didn't feel it. It was like shaving my head was new, so my whole head felt weird all the time.
Yeah.
So. But I will say that something must have worked because like my dating game really stepped up right after I shaved my head. It was only like maybe 4 or 5 months later that I started dating you.
Yep.
And it was about 3 years ago when I stopped dating that girl because she was really into blood, like Armie Hammer. Oh, you're confused. Have you not heard the Armie Hammer thing?
Maybe.
He was like sending like weird sexts to people on like Instagram or something like that, and he said like I want to drink your blood, and like he's like I'm 100% a cannibal, and he's like a weird like dominant dude, and like it was, you know, hey, you do you, Armie. Your name's Armie Hammer. What else was expected of you, right? Oh no, he ripped his pants. That's the worst thing that's happened to him.
Is that Barnes?
Yeah. But you know he survives because he meets a guy named Noble and they start a bookstore after this. Imagine that was his legacy. This also made me question because this is supposed to be Oliver Stone. I'm like, did Oliver Stone kill his sergeant while he was out? Like, is this him confessing? I believe this
falls under the disclaimer of some of the events may have been changed.
Yes. Well, I mean, nobody plays anybody in the, like, But yeah, I choose to believe that Oliver Stone definitely murdered a superior in the jungle. Oh, I slammed the thing. Well, I'm very proud of you for making through this movie. You were up about an hour and 45 minutes later than you usually are.
Yeah.
You've been on a very tight sleep schedule lately, and I do appreciate very much you pinch hitting for Todd.
No problem, babe.
So
I don't work anymore.
Yes. Yeah, you work for me now.
No, I work for our children.
Yes. Oh, that was a great thing. I posted this thing on our Facebook. It was all about how parents are now the personal assistants of their kids, and they're like, okay, you have a Zoom class at 9:00, and then you've got a video call with grandma after school. Boom, he made it. He has the face of, he reminds me of Cleveland Little. So we just watched.
Did he just stab himself?
He did, and there's reason for that because if you get hurt, you can get sent home even if your time isn't up. So with all these people, it would be very believable that he got injured in this battle. Yes, I want a necklace of ears. Do you think I can just get one at the gift shop? Oh, he's got like the first Negan. It's got...
oh, yeah, look at that.
Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting thing I never noticed before, and I was doing my research. You saw he reached into that guy's pocket and pulled something out. Something that was very common and that they found on Viet Cong soldiers was heroin, because they were using it as a painkiller. So you see that guy, like, you know, in the Get High tent and stuff like that, and that starts to maybe suggest that he had something else going on too. Look at that.
It's insane.
Just the imagery of... Now it makes me wonder, I'm like, were they all like dummies, or were those like stuntmen they were just shoveling in?
I'm sure they were probably dummies.
Yeah, those stuntmen sure were dummies. Ha 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 ha. Hey, man. That's it. We're basically it. There you go. So that's exactly what happened. They both got hurt twice, so they're getting sent home before their time is up. So that's why he stabbed himself in the leg. It's actually really funny how, like, just because, like, the shots are so quick, and that's the other thing, too. He thought he was getting out. He thought this was all over. Now he's the sergeant. He just got promoted, so now not only is he not going home, he has to make all the decisions. Wee. That would feel bad. Like, the one guy obviously did it to himself and was doing it to get out. He just got hurt and it happened. And, like, imagine seeing those other people who you're leaving behind and stuff. Like, I'm greatly averted to war, especially just because the wars of our time have been so meaningless. So yeah, he's on heroin. That explains his entire character so quickly.
He looks like the guy who stole the podium.
He does. He definitely was at that Capitol invasion. But yeah, yeah, I mean, like I said, like, the wars that have happened now have been around, like, a lot of uselessness and, you know, war for oil, that sort of thing. So, I mean, I definitely, like, we didn't have an experience of World War II or any of that craziness. But, hey, fingers crossed for World War III or another civil war. But... like, to see that, like, I always try to think, because they're always like, oh, if you don't support war, you don't support the troops. I'm like, no, I feel like I support the troops more than you do, because I don't want them to go to war.
Yeah, I don't want them to go to war and die.
I want them all to be alive and have their jobs at, like, Radio Shack, or I guess that ages me a little bit too. Blockbuster and Radio Shack and all those places that are still open. Yeah, that's that crazy character's name was Ra. Originally, I guess they wanted to cast Elias. They wanted a Native American actor, and he couldn't find somebody who he deemed good enough for the role. And there was rumor that Val Kilmer had auditioned for the role, and he actually came in with kind of a Native American vibe, but being a white guy trying to put that off, he thought it was weird. But they ended up working together in The Doors a little bit later on. And that was what Kevin Dillon was in with him as well. He was in The Doors with Oliver Stone. So, there you go. Dedicated to the men who fought and died in the Vietnam War. You're welcome, women, for us not dragging you along to that shit.
Okay, so... this is 2 movies in a row now.
Yeah.
Where at the end, I have now had to ask you, please don't ever make me watch that again.
Yeah.
For very different reasons. This was a fantastic movie.
Just uncomfortable.
But it is far too
Yeah.
I can't.
No, I understand that. I understand that. What was the last one we did?
The last one we watched was Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, yeah, that was
so
good.
Terrible.
That was so good.
And I asked you to never make me watch that again.
Actually, it's so cool that you brought that up because I came across something. I went on a walk around my work yesterday, and my work owns Nelvana Studios, which is the animation company that made the animated portion of the special. So I found this on one of the floors, and it was on loan from the Scott Dyer Foundation of Noteworthy Exemplary League for Visual Advancement of Northern Arts. It's a big long name. Scott Dyer was a good mentor to me as well. He's somebody I worked with who was the chief technical officer of the company back when kind of I made my move to senior and stuff like that. But here is a model and sketch of the original Boba Fett from the animated.
That is really cool.
That is really cool, and it was like so incredibly easy for me to grab that if I wanted to, but I'm a good human being, so I didn't do that. But how cool is that, eh? With the original gun, which is now the Mandalorian's gun.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Here, what else do I know? Yeah, but you could see like the original like model sketches, the side view and the front view, back view, all that. It was so awesome. I'll put that up on my on the show's Instagram so you can see that. All right, guys, that's the episode. That's it. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back next week for sure, barring any other insurrections, but we'll be back with some fun. Todd is going to call in for our coming attractions episode, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about because we have we've only texted back and forth for the last couple of weeks, so yeah, we'll be all over it. And then we've got some movies. We've pre-recorded a bunch of movies, and we're going to start getting into those ones until we can get back into the studio together. So until then,
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no,
until then, I'm here.
No, I have the movies already done. So I was like, I've got a few in the.
Never mind.
I get that too. But yeah. So until next week, guys, we will see you later.
This has been Miscast Commentary with your hosts Joe Finley and Todd Murray. Executive producer Joe Finley. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Visit www.miscastcommentary.com for all news related to the podcast. Miscast Commentary is a Miscast Media production.